Professor Małgosia Fitzmaurice. I have a Chair of Public International Law in Queen Mary University of London, and one of the areas of my expertise is international environmental law, in which area I wrote several books and articles. My particular areas of interest are biodiversity, but also philosophical foundations of international environmental law. Obviously, international environmental law is one of the most interesting and developing branches of public international law. In early 20th century, we didn't know anything about protection of the environment. It's only in 1970s and 80s of the last century when states started to understand that environment requires protection, that you cannot pollute oceans, that species are declining. So they started to do something, they undertook the action about which I tell you in the next part of our presentation. When you read about the climate change, about ozone layer protection, about hazardous substances, even about trade and the environment, it is all international environmental law. When you look at BBC News and you see that some smugglers were caught at Heathrow Airport or other airports of the world with birds, eggs of birds, or cubs of tigers, which was the case in Thailand, this is also international environmental law. This is a very important convention on illegal trade in endangered species of wild fauna and flora, the CITES Convention. So, when you will see at airports of the world, like it is in Iceland, for instance, a special box with written CITES on it, you will know that this is part of international environmental law. When you read about December 2012 Doha negotiations on climate change, this is also something which our course will deal with. When you watch the news and you see clashes between environmental organizations and Japanese ships conducting scientific research on whales in the Arctic Ocean, this is also something which will be covered by our course. So we try to keep it topical. But it's not only what you see in the news. It is, of course, a legal course. So we will deal with legal implications of certain environmental actions. And please take note that international environmental law is part and parcel of public international law. So we try to put international environmental law in a context. Therefore, our course is based on strong links with general international law, as well as it's based on case law of international courts and tribunals, such as International Court of Justice, International Tribunal on the Law of the Sea, as well as World Trade Organization. So it is a very extensive course. We look at all the possible angles, we look at new developments, we try to make it interesting. We try to make you understand and perceive the importance of international law regulation. This course analyzes multilateral environmental agreements, There are about 900 environmental agreements in the world. So you can see what a robust part of international law, international environmental law is. We will not focus on bilateral agreements, but we try in our course focus on the most important multilateral environmental agreements. Some of them are of global value. Almost all parts of the world are parties to it. In fact, I would like to tell you that the protection of ozone layer has a Montreal Protocol, which is the most global or even universal of all multilateral environmental agreements, because all states in the world are parties to this agreement. And protection of ozone layer is a success story. So I would like to bring to your attention a positive aspect of protection of international environmental law. It does work, and without all these agreements, environmental law would not be working. We wouldn't be living in a green environment. Our health would be impaired. So environmental law is one of the most important areas of international law, because it protects our life, our health, and also that of future generations. In fact, the doctrine, the theory of intergenerational equity, is one of the philosophical foundations of international environmental law. So international environmental law, it's not only looking at the protection of environment for present generations, but also looks onto protection of the environment for future generations, for our children and our grandchildren. We look at it also, we look how philosophy underlines international environmental law. We look at some case law which supports the principle of or doctrine of intergenerational equity. In fact, this course has a holistic approach, so we not only look at underlying general principles of international environmental law, but also very practical issues, how climate change is protected, how transboundary long-range air pollution is protected. We think that you will gain an overall knowledge of all the issues relating to environmental protection. We also look at very important issues of water cooperation, which is incredibly important, of paramount importance, I could say, in prevention of very many diseases such as typhoid. So the environmental development takes into consideration nowadays also the aspect of economic development, but also aspect of social issues. So contemporary approach to international environmental law is based on 3 pillars: environmental protection, economic development, and social issues. And this is all encapsulated by a concept of sustainable development, about which I will tell you in further parts of my presentation.